Back in my garage. Today I ended up pulling the fork off the Ninja 400. We're gonna take them to Freedom Cycle tomorrow to get a set of K-Tech 20 IDS dropped in. Fresh oil. I went with Honda 5-weight. They have a CST value close to what K-Tech recommends, 17.5 at 40 degrees. Take it for what it's worth. It's a lot of suspension jargon I don't know anything about, but they recommended it. I got the 5-weight, and I got a whole bunch of new seals from Kawasaki because I don't think the previous owner of the bike freshened up the forks. It has 8,000 miles on it. I figured I'll just throw new seals in it all at the same time. Here you can see I have a under fork stand. It is a pin that goes into the lower triple on your bike and hoists it up. It's very convenient for when you have to take off your forks, or else you're gonna have to put a floor jack underneath the engine case to hoist the bike up so you can pull the forks off, or hook chains to the rafters of the ceiling to hold the bike up from the front. Pick a solid point to any point you want, or just get yourself a triple tree stand. Save all the headache. I obviously went with Woodcraft front and rear. The rear has the Superbike lifters on there, Superbike lifters down here. Bam. I didn't want to run spools because if I crash, the spool might just snap off. I would have to drill up the hole. So I went with Superbike style. Low center of gravity, easy to lift the bike up and down. Minimal effort needed with these stands. The front also has notches welded into them, up here and down below. Up here is for your calipers. So you can see I have my caliper hanging there to relieve stress off of the lines. Down here, because this axle is a solid axle, you can usually put your axles through here, the nuts and washers through there, so you don't lose them. Next up, we're gonna pull the rear shock, put the K-Tech 35 DDS in. Don't mind my Christmas decorations, it was only a couple months ago. Kind of look like a dinosaur this way. The fairing stay is on. I have reattached my coolant reservoir as well as the rectifier here. There was an issue with this. The bolts that came on the motor holder fairing stay was too short, so I reused the OEM one. Don't throw away your OEM bolts when you're doing these kinds of installs. You never know when you're gonna need to reuse them. I'm gonna have to tuck some of the wiring out of the way. It ended up being a lot more than I anticipated, and I also didn't want to cut the wiring mainly because when I want to sell this as a street bike, I want to keep it as intact as possible. I put the under front fairing cowling back on it, just not lose it, to be honest. Next up, we're gonna install some of these. It's a white box, I know, but inside that white box is a set of Woodcraft Rearset kit for the Ninja 400. Bam! If you know me, you know I love Woodcraft stuff, and this isn't any different. I have installed these on all of my bikes I've ever had, from my R6 to my R1 to my XSR. Race bikes, street bikes, Woodcraft Rearsets is like the first thing I look to buy. Well, their entire catalog. I go through them to see what they have for my bike, and then I end up just, you know, checking it out in Woodcraft. The great thing about these, I'll link a video up here so you guys can check it out, the full install on my XSR that's in the corner. These you can run in GP or standard shift. It's your choice. The instructions will let you know how. I'll probably figure out how as I'm putting these together off air. They also get sold as spare, so anything in this kit can be bought as a spare in case you go down or you lose something or you crash. One of the other reasons why I love Woodcraft. But without further ado, I'm gonna put those together off camera, and then we're gonna come back and then slap those onto the bike and see how they are. And after that, I think we can just call it a day for today. So let's go. We're done. Here's the shift side of the rear sets. This, you'll notice I don't have a sprocket cover on because I have oriented this shifter arm into the GP shift position, which flips the knuckle at the actuator 180 degrees the opposite direction. Stock, the actuator points down. Here it points up. That makes it GP, so all my shifts are in reverse. You can run the sprocket cover again, but you're gonna have to do a relief cut to where this notch is, or else it's not gonna fit. I think I'm gonna go with the sprocket cover over this, mainly because these wires are just way too close for my liking. So I'm gonna put the cover back on, do the relief cut there, make sure it fits nice and snug. This is built super sturdy. I can't give praise to the craftsmanship over the guys at Woodcraft enough. Eric built this to within really high tolerances, so you can see down here everything is just built to work correctly, and even that, it looks close. He takes the play out of all the mechanisms or any moving parts, which I really like. I'll put up a photo here of where the stock footrest bracket for the OEM rear set sat versus where these sit. You can just see how much further back and up it really gives your position of riding. I think they want to call it the attack position. So your legs are going to be in a much better spot. Your body's going to be in a much better spot to do the side-to-side motion on the bike. It does provide a much more aggressive riding position overall than the stock ones. Let's go over to the brake side. Brake side, pretty straightforward too. You definitely do reuse the heel guard here and the brake pin washer in the back, so don't lose those. Instructions were pretty straightforward, but it took me a little while, as with most brake sides, because you do have a master cylinder, and the OEM setup does have the actuator for the rear brake light if it's still street legal. This is what that is, so I'm gonna have to zip tie it and put it somewhere. Other than that, it cleans it up really nice, a much more aggressive riding position, and the brake pedal goes from nothing, all brakes. So pretty nifty, but I'm gonna say on track. I'm probably not gonna use the rear brakes, mainly because I don't really use the rear brake. This one takes some time to get used to because of just how short the lever play is before full brakes are engaged. But overall, the install was easy. I really dig the look. I already know that these will survive any crash I can put them through. Maybe not like an upside down tumbling event, but in any case, they're on. They're solid. I love them. Go check them out. I'll put a link down in the description below where you can get yourself a set of these Woodcraft Rearsets. Please excuse this setup. 100% not safe. It is what I gotta do, and it's all the stuff I have around me. Here's the rear shock pulled. Pretty easy if you have jacked up by the rear set. Note that these two bolts holding them in, one is shorter than the other. The shorter one goes on top, the longer one goes on bottom. And to replace it, I do have the K-Tech 35 DDS. There's a base setting for these things. I'm just gonna install them, and then when I set my suspension, after I get the rest of the suspension bits installed, I'm gonna set it for rider sag. It's already been set up for my weight with gear. Comparing the two, there's honestly no comparison. You can tell one is, whew, this is a beefy unit. This is their top of the line model, the 35 DDS. So I'm pretty excited to slap this baby in, so let's go. So pretty straightforward install. You're gonna just take off this top bolt here and this wee little guy down here. Sliding it in might be a little bit tricky, but finagle your fingers in a little bit. I noticed there's a little bit of play laterally in this. Then I looked at the OEM one and I thought, oh man, maybe I need that spacer that I have lost. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I needed to put the spacer in there. I took it apart one more time just to double check. I realized, nope, it already has a spacer inside top and bottom. So this free play might just be something normal for the shock. I do have another K-Tech on my XSR. It's in. I'm gonna set everything a little bit later, so I'm gonna play with the compression and the rebound to put a good base setting. But
meanwhile,
wanted to give a big shout out to Kyle and John for taking time out of their busy schedule to help me install these 20 IDS cartridge kit onto the 400. Mainly it was them installing it and I was just asking a whole bunch of suspension questions. Both are super knowledgeable, both are super nice, can't talk your ear off about bike setup, favorite bikes, favorite race tracks, and things like that. So you guys got a leaky fork or a rear shock that needs a new spring, heck even a whole race bike that needs to freshen up, hit up these guys up at Freedom Cycle NH. They're more than happy to help you out. That's gonna do it for this video though. I hope you enjoyed it, and the first round is 3 weeks out and we just got a whole foot of snow. Gotta love New England.
There's one.
It's one done.